Hi. So one of the questions I get asked all the time is, Ishira, I'm going into the exam hall, I'm preparing for the exams, but then what are the topics that I need to focus on in order for me to increase my chances of passing the examination? So in this new series, I'm going to be sharing with you the key topics that you have to focus on in the respective subjects that we have in the ICA examination so that you can position yourself to pass the examination. And this video, I'm focusing on public sector accounting and finance. Now, one of the things I tell my students all the time is that passing the public sector accounting and finance examination, it's very easy if you know exactly what you are doing. What does that mean? It means that going into the public sector exams, we know exactly the things that the examiner is going to be bringing questions on, and we can actually lay our hands specifically on the things that the examiner is going to be bringing question on. So the question students ask is, okay, public sector accounting and finance, what are the key areas that I have to focus on? Now, many a times students ask these questions because number one, they don't have a lot of time to be able to go through the entire syllabus, and number two, they feel that if they can focus on some key aspects of the syllabus, then they can increase their chances of passing the examination. Like I recommend and say all the time, and as per the guidelines of the chief examiner for public sector accounting and finance, it is very important that you cover the entire syllabus in your studies, because that position you in a spot so that you are able to have a lot of options to go in as the questions are going to be presented to you in the examination. But whatever be your reason, today I want to give you the key issues that you have to focus on, the key topics that you have to focus on in order for you to pass the examination. Are you excited about it? Give a thumbs up on the video, and most importantly, comment in the chat box any questions you have for me. What are some of the topics in public sector accounting and finance you would want me to cover? And let me know, and I'll be covering that in the next video or on one of our live stream sessions. You ready? Let's get into it. Now, so public sector accounting and finance, what are the key areas we have to focus on? What are the key topics that we have to focus on in order for us to increase our chances of passing the examination? What are the key topics? Number one is the issue about the conceptual framework for general purpose financial statement. Now, there is a question that is question 1A, all other things being equal, question 1A for 10 marks, that is going to be there in the exam hall. Now, this is where the examiner can ask you questions relating to the accounting policies and the basis of accounting in that particular case. Now, you have to know the distinction between the accounting policies and the basis of accounting. Now, the accounting policies are the things you know at the cash basis, accrual basis, modified cash, modified accrual, the advantages and disadvantages. Then the issue about how do we call it? Fund accounting, vote accounting, commitment accounting. These are the basis of accounting. All right. So you must know about those things. Then, second thing in that particular category that you need to understand is a measurement basis. So either the examiner will ask you to write notes on the measurement basis, or the examiner will bring you a scenario to determine which measurement basis can be used. So the fair value, the historical cost, the net realizable value, the replacement cost method, the value in use, all these are bases of accounting that we can use in order to recognize items in the financial statement, or they determine the initial value of items in the financial statement. So in the question one aspect, that aspect is very, very critical. There is definitely a question about either the qualitative characteristics, the measurement basis, the issue about the accounting concept, the accounting basis. You must be strong in these areas, because definitely there is a 10 mark waiting for you in that regard. Definitely there's a 10 mark waiting for you. So that is the first key aspect that we need to focus on. The second key aspect that we need to focus on is going to be public-private partnership arrangement. Now, this is a common topical area when it comes to public sector, because governments across the globe, in order for them to expand and grow, in order for them to provide infrastructure facilities rapidly, and to be able to enhance the economic growth and increase the standard of living of its citizens, must engage the private sector. So the private sector brings in the funding, the technology, the expertise, and then join forces with the government and all government entities to be able to provide the infrastructure facilities that were solely provided by the government. So that is the concept about public-private partnership arrangement. That is a concept basically about that. So in public-private partnership arrangement, definitely there's a 10-mark question waiting for us in the exam hall. And if you are going into the public sector examination, then you have to be in the spot to be able to answer questions. Key issues in public-private partnership arrangement will include issues such as the principles of public-private partnership arrangement. Now, when it comes to the principles of public-private partnership arrangement, there are issues about value for money, accountability, issues about the risk allocation. These are key principles. So understand at least 5 of the key principles. That's going to be very critical there. Then the limitations of public-private partnership arrangement. It's something that you need to really understand there. Then the issues about the importance or the objectives of the public-private partnership arrangement. Something that you need to understand as a student going into the public sector examination. Then also, most importantly, is going to be the types of public-private partnership arrangement. We have the build, operate, transfer, and operate. We have the design, build, operate, and transfer. We have the concession, service concession. Then we have the maintain and operate. In that case, so the various types and the features, very, very critical. You must make sure that you know about them very well in that case, because the examiner is definitely going to be bringing a 10-mark question on public-private partnership arrangement, and it is something you don't want to miss in that case. So that is the second key aspect that you need to understand. So number one, the conceptual framework for general purpose financial statements. Number two, the public-private partnership arrangement is something that is critical that you need to understand. The third key area that you have to pay attention to writing public sector accounting and finance is going to be the issue about PEFA. That is the Public Expenditure and Financial Accountability Framework. Public Expenditure and Financial Accountability Framework. Now, this is a basic topic that is going to be answered or asked in the exam hall by the examiner. And whether you like it or not, that is going to be there for you in the exam hall. Now, among other things, there are the theoretical aspect of the public-private partnership arrangement that the examiner can ask you questions on. Now, there is a 10-mark Dandale question waiting for us there. As I mentioned, the theoretical aspect that the examiner can ask us questions on in the exam hall will include issues in relation to the 7 pillars of the framework used to assess the efficiency of public financial management system. That is the purpose of the PEFA or the PEFA, depending on the school you attended, and the teacher will taught you how to pronounce things. So Public Expenditure and Financial Accountability Framework, it is something that we used. It's a framework used for evaluating the strength, the efficiency, and effectiveness of the public financial management system of a government. So the 7 key pillars, you must know about them because the examiner can ask you about it. The limitations of the PEFA, the reasons of the PEFA or the uses of the PEFA, the examiner can throw out some questions about that. But most importantly, using the PEFA indicators to assess the performance of government budget reliability or government asset management or government budget implementation is something that you need to understand. So we have what we call the weakest link method, and then we have the average method, that is the M1 and M2 method for evaluating the performance of organizations. And I hope that you have done this already. In case you've not done it, make sure that you read that very well, because the examiner could throw that at us that we need to understand in there. So the theoretical aspect and then the calculation aspect. Then also, in the PEFA, there are guidelines that we can use to assess government's efficiency when it comes to budget outturn. So we have the aggregate budget outturn, then we have the component outturn for expenditure, for revenue, and there are indicators. Now, broadly, we're going to be having A, B, C, and D. That is the grading we use to assess whatever indicator that we are dealing with. Now, A being 4, that is the best. It means that whatever indicator we are measuring, whatever dimension, that we are measuring, there are 7 dimension, 31 indicators. There are 7 pillars, there are 7 pillars or 7 indicators and about 31 dimension or so that we need to look out for. So whatever dimension that we are measuring, what is going to be happening is that there are going to be grading, and the gradings are A, B, C, and D. Now, A is the highest ratings. It means that system is effective. It is the best. It is very good there. Then we have B. It means that it's good. So we have A, very good, B, good, C means it is an average performance or average level. D means it is poor. So the way we do the numerical is that A is labeled as 4, B is labeled as 3, C is labeled as 2, and D is labeled as what? 1. And that is the grading system that we use to measure the performance of whatever dimension and indicator that we are measuring. So PEFA is going to be very critical, the theory aspect of the PEFA, and then how the PEFA grading system can be used in order to assess the performance of the organization. In case you've not watched the video on PEFA, you can check the description of this video. I did a 2-part lesson on that, so you can watch these 2 videos to understand how the PEFA framework works. But unfortunately, in that video, I didn't explain the issue about how we use the grading system, the weakest link method or the average method. So, but then you will be able to gather substantially all the knowledge that you need in order for you to go with the theory aspect of PEFA. So that is a third thing that will be done deal in the exam hall, and you want to be in a position to be able to answer it there. Then the fourth thing that will be in the exam hall that I want you to pay attention to is the financial statement preparation or the final account of government. Now, this can come from 3 or 4 angles depending on how excited the examiner is. So the examiner can ask us to prepare the financial statement for the consolidated fund. It's a question that examiner can throw at us, or we can be asked to prepare the financial statement for, now when we are doing the consolidated fund, that means the central government, okay? But then we can be asked to do prepare the financial statement for an MMDA, that is a local government authority, a ministry, department, or agency, or we could be asked to deal with the issue about a department, an agency, a subvented organization, a hospital, a municipal, something like that. Now, it is very important for you to understand how we deal with revenue and in the central government, and then expenditure in the local government. It's very, very important, and I cannot overemphasize the importance of that. So one key topic that I always recommend my students to be strong in before they come to the final account preparation, actually 2 key topics, will be the issue about revenue management and expenditure control. So under that topic, revenue management and expenditure control, you are able to understand the issue about the sources of revenue to the government, sources of revenue to subvented organizations, sources of revenue to metropolitan, municipal, and district assembly, and sources of revenue to various other subvented organizations and agencies. Then you will know the expenditures that they are incur. So from the consolidated fund, we know the expenditures that must be spent. From the local assembly side, we know the expenditures. From a subvented organization's perspective, we know the expenditures. So the topic revenue management and expenditure control provides you with the blueprint you need for the classification of the items when you are preparing the financial statement. Does that make sense? Then the second key topic that you have to understand for the final accounts preparation will be the IPSAS, that is the International Public Sector Accounting Standards. Now you can check the channel because we have also covered a number of the IPSAS that you need to understand going into the public sector examination. 2 key IPSAS, or maybe 4 key IPSAS that I would want you to pay attention to will be IPSAS 17, Property, Plant and Equipment, IPSAS 12, Inventories, IPSAS 9, and then IPSAS 23. IPSAS 9 and IPSAS 23 are revenue IPSAS, revenue from exchange transaction, revenue from non-exchange transaction. So IPSAS 17, IPSAS 12, IPSAS 9, IPSAS 23, these 4 IPSAS, at least for the final accounts preparation, you're going to be applying these 4 IPSAS. So you have to be mindful of the way these things are dealt with in that case. So that is a huge 20-mark aspect of the syllabus that we need to understand. Now, depending on how excited the examiner is also, he could ask us a question strictly about revenue management and expenditure control. That is like internal controls that can be put in place to control public expenditure, the internal controls that can be put in place to control revenue, the internal controls that can be put in place over cash. So the topic revenue management and expenditure control also is an area that the examiner can bring a question between 5 to 10 mark that you need to understand in order for you to pass the examination. Hey, Let me know. Are you getting some value so far? Give me a thumbs up on the video if you're getting some value so far. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed to the channel already. And most importantly, share the video. Let us reach many students who will get these valuable information so that they can go in there and pass the examination. Like I say always, my objective is to be able to simplify these things for you guys so that when you go to the exam hall, you can be confident, write the exams, pass the exam, but most importantly, become really successful. So give me a thumbs up on the video and also leave a comment. Let me know the things you would want me to talk about. So general purpose financial statement, key area. The issue about PEFA, key area, public-private partnership arrangement, key area, then financial statement preparation, key area. Then the fifth thing I want you to understand is going to be evaluation of the financial statement, either on the consolidated level or for an entity in that case. This is a done deal area that is going to be there. Now, so you need to understand the various computations that are going to be done when it comes to public sector ratio analysis. Please note that ratio analysis in public sector is going to be different from what you know in the financial reporting class, because unlike financial reporting where you're going to be dealing with issues like utilization of assets, issues like controlling operating expenses, issues like cost of sales, raw materials, trade receivables, and all that. In public sector accounting and finance, evaluation of the financial statement of an entity, we're going to come a little bit different, because here you're going to be using indicators such as the size of the population, you're going to be number of people employed during the year, minimum wage legislation by government, how much debt government borrowed during the year, the interest rate of the debt, then the debt that is being borrowed, what they have been used for as a country. So there are various indicators that we used here about evaluation of financial statement in the public sector. And I think we have also covered something about evaluation of financial statement on the channel. We're going to check it up. You can check the description to see if this is available in there, and we will drop it in the description there. So that is a key area also that we need to understand. Please note that when evaluating the financial performance and the financial position of government or of subvented organizations, a public sector organization, the PEFA principle could also be used. Remember, I told you about the grading system, A, B, C. So we could be using any of the issues there. But key issue you need to understand here is that when it comes to evaluation of a financial statement in the public sector, there are three categories. We are what we call common size analysis or common size statement. Now, common size statement is where you change the statement of profit or statement of financial performance into percentages, the statement of financial position also into percentages. So the individual items, you convert them into percentages. If you're in the statement of financial performance, the base figure is going to be your total revenue. Then when you're in the statement of financial position, the base figure is going to be your total asset. Does that make sense? So you're going to do common size analysis. That is one of the areas the examiner can bring the question from. Then the second part is going to be the ratio analysis. So this is where you calculate things like debt per capita, wage to tax revenue, interest to tax revenue, GDP per capita, and other ratios that you are going to be calculating. And then the purpose of these ratios is to help you to either assess the financial performance, the financial condition, and then the cash the financial health of the public sector entity in question or government at large. Now, when you are doing the ratios, two things you must take into consideration. Either the examiner will bring the question for you to look at two countries, hypothetical countries, usually country A and country B, or you are going to be using the same information for the government of Ghana or a country from last year and this year. Now, the way you interpret the ratios when you are dealing with two countries will be different from the way you interpret the ratios when you are dealing with the same country but 2 years. So make sure you pay attention to that very well. Then the third thing is going to be the budget variance analysis. Now, the purpose of the budget variance analysis is to assess the budget reliability and realistic nature of the government budget. In other words, if the government says, I'm going to make a revenue of $10 billion for the year, did they achieve $10 billion? That is the concept of the budget variance analysis. And it is in the budget variance analysis that the PEFA formula or the PEFA concept is going to be applied in that case. So the examiner may bring one of these three things. Now, please don't do any ratio and proportion, because the examiner has brought all these three in the last 5 examination dates under this no syllabus, if my memory serves me right. In the last 5 examination dates, all of them have been brought. So common size could be asked, ratio analysis could be asked, budget variance analysis could be asked. My consent to you, my plea to you is make sure you understand each of them and the guiding principle relating to them. Does that make sense? Then once you are done with that, the 6th thing you need to understand is going to be public procurement. Public procurement. There is a 10-mark question on public procurement, but unfortunately, public procurement is a very huge area that you have to look out for. But there are key areas you need to pay attention to, like the methods of procurement. There are 2 broad methods of procurement. We have the single or sole sourcing, and then we have the competitive tendering. Now, there is a difference between single and sole sourcing. You must ensure you know that. Then the competitive tendering, there we have what we call the open competitive tendering and limited competitive tendering. Under the open competitive tendering, we have what we call international competitive tendering, national competitive tendering. Under the limited, we have what we call the restricted tendering. We have the request for quotation, and then we have the 2-stage tendering. These are under limited competitive tendering in that case. But most importantly, you must know which method to be used based on the contract value available, and that is located, or that can be found in the Public Procurement Act as amended. And you can download the act and then look at it at the I think the 4th schedule. At the end of the act, you're going to see all these things, the contract values, and then the methods that can be used. The examiner has asked this before, and so you have to be aware of them in that case. So methods of procurement, very critical for us if we are going into the exam, or under procurement for 10-mark question. Or the examiner could bring the roles or the membership of various things, like the audit, like the tender committee, like the tender review board, the membership of the board, who can be on the membership of the board, or the roles of these people, the tender evaluation panel, the tender review board, the issue in relation to the tender committee, what are their roles. Then the role of the boss himself or boss itself, that is the public procurement authority. What is their role? What is their membership? What can they do? What they cannot do? You must scan read all these things. Then definitely the processes involved in procuring goods, works, and services, the general processes involved. Then finally, the processes involved in procurement of consultancy. I think it's an area that the examiner has not really examined on under the no syllabus, but it's a critical aspect in the syllabus that you must know about in that case. Then the last thing will be disposal of government stores. What are the procedures we go through in the disposal of government stores? Is something that is very critical, very basic, that you must understand and know about. So that is the issue there. Like I said, public procurement is a voluminous area, but you need to really make sure you exhaust as much as possible, focusing on these key highlights that I have mentioned, so that you can increase your chances of passing the examination. So that is the next thing that is going to be critical in that case. Then the last but one thing I want to focus on will be the regulatory framework for public sector accounting. Now, this is where you learn things such as what is the legal regulatory framework of public sector accounting. This is where you also look at the roles or the function of key public officers, like the Minister of Finance, the Controller Accountant General, the Auditor General, then institutions such as the Internal Audit Agency, then issues in relation to organizations or authorities such as so Internal Audit Agency, Parliament, Public Accounts Committee. These institutions, what is their role? And then I think the Office of the Special Prosecutor and all that, IOCO, their role. I mean, for some reason, it's located somewhere in their book. So you must understand the role of all these people in public financial management, because it's there. Maybe the examiner will bring one or two of them and he will ask you to explain the role. Then principal spending officers, and then principal account holders. Is that it? Yeah, I think so. Principal spending officers and principal account holders. We're going to check that insected there for you guys. So we must know the role of these people and the regulatory framework. So it's an area that you have to read. It's not always that the examiner is excited about them, but then you must know about it. Then the final thing is going to be budgeting and budgetary control, or budgeting in the public sector. Again, there's a huge aspect of the syllabus that you need to understand. It's really voluminous, but you want to make sure that you can read as fast as possible and focus on some key areas, such as the processes involved in preparation of budgets at the central government level, at the local government level, issues about mid-year budget review. You must understand all that as well. Then the various control mechanisms that can be put in place for each of the stages of budget. We must know about it in that regard. So if you take away budgeting, I'm not saying take it away though, but if you take away budgeting, you realize that conceptual framework for general purpose financial statement, that is 10 marks for us. PPP, 10 marks for us, making 20. PEFA, 10, making 30. In that case, financial statement preparation making 50, because that is 20 marks. Ratio analysis could be between 10 to 15, or maybe 20 marks, and that's going to be 70 marks coming in there in that particular case. Then the issue about so that is about 70 marks coming in. Then the issue about what else can we talk about? Maybe let's take that again. The PEFA is 10, general purpose financial statement 10, making 20. PPP 10. Procurement 10, making 40 there. Then the financial statement preparation 20 marks, making 60. Then ratios between 10, 15 or 20, so making maybe 75 or 80 there in that particular case. So you realize that focusing on these key areas will really position you to be able to pass the examination at the end of the day, if you really know what exactly you are doing in that particular case. So these are some of the crucial, critical, basic topics that you have to focus on. Now, I know somebody will say, Nhyira, you have mentioned everything in the syllabus. Yes, because the examiner tries as much as possible to cover every aspect of the syllabus in each examination date. At least he wants a coverage of 95%, 90 to 95% of the syllabus. It means almost everything in the syllabus, the examiner is going to be asking you in that case. But so these are the general things that you need to understand in there. Later on, we are going to be giving an examination analysis document where we will sort of specify some specific issues that you need to understand, and that will come along as we continue with our executive revision masterclass from next week, and provide you with some guidelines that you need on specific areas of each of these topics that we have looked at, that we have to really zero on coming in April 2022 examination. So that is it about that. I believe that you have got some value out of this video. It appears a bit lengthy. It appears that there are a lot of things you need to know about. But if you really understand the scope of the syllabus and understand the way things are supposed to be presented, I believe that you should go into the exam hall and pass the public sector examination. This is how you pass the public sector exams, by identifying those key areas and focusing on these key areas so that you can put yourself in the position to pass the examination. Let me say finally that if you get to the exam hall, the way you answer the question is very critical. So don't be in a hurry to start with the final accounts. Don't be in a hurry to even start with the ratios. What you want to start with is to start with the written aspects. The reason is that the written aspect, you're going to save time from there a little bit so that you do the calculation aspect. Because if you don't know and you start with the final accounts, that's going to take you a lot of time, because the final accounts always, you have to do a lot of workings okay, for revenue, for expenditures, deal with the footnotes, extract the financial statement. So it's going to require a lot of time. So what you want to do is that you want to answer all the theories first. Once you answer all the theories first, you save some time from there. Then you now bring it on your calculation for the financial statement preparation, for ratios, and then if there is PEFA computational aspect that you have to deal with, then you deal with that as well, so you can assess the organization's performance. I believe that if you do these, you should be able to go into the exam hall and pass the examination, and most importantly, become successful. What do you think about this? Put it in the comment section. Let me know if that this was interesting for you, and then most importantly, let me know these topics that I've listed. What are some of them that you would want me to cover in the next video, or maybe on one of our live stream sessions, so you can prepare well for the examination. So give me a thumbs up on the video. Remember to share the video, and also subscribe to, and click that bell notification icon so that you stay tuned with me as we continue with our discussion towards the examination. I wish you all the best in advance. I'm really excited about this period because we are able to go through critical areas, have a discussion on critical issues to be able to help students to pass the examination. I'll catch you in another stream as we continue with our discussion. Till then, stay safe and stay blessed.